Hello, welcome to Newscentre. With me, Parikshit Luthra. Driving electric vehicles in the UK set to get costlier in the next 2 years. Starting April 2025, all electric cars will attract vehicle excise duty, a tax levied on vehicles for the upkeep of UK roads. Currently, electric car owners are exempted from any such tax. Under the plans laid out by the Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt, electric cars registered from April 25 will pay £10 in the first year, then move to the standard rate of £165. EV manufacturers fear the move will dampen demand for electric vehicles and is at odds with the country's net zero ambitions. Joining me now to discuss the ramifications of this latest order for the EV industry in the UK and whether other countries could follow suit are Emma Butcher of Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders in the UK and Gill Nowell of Electrix, also joining us from the United Kingdom. Emma, if I can begin with you, how is this going to impact the adoption, the sale of electric cars? This applies only in 2025, so there is still some time, but practically this was the last tax incentive available to electric car owners.
No, you're right, absolutely. So it obviously is disappointing, but it wasn't unexpected. As fuel duty declines, tax income has to come from somewhere, and we recognise that all car drivers should pay their fair share of tax. Absolutely. On its own, the standard VED rate for cars isn't as onerous as it could be. However, there is a bit of a sting in the tail. In that there will also be what's known as an expensive car supplement, which will be applied at the same time. And so this is an annual £355 cost, which is applied to all cars, costing more than £40,000, including battery electric vehicles. Now, clearly, these electric vehicles, they're new technology. They are unavoidably more expensive than conventional vehicles. So great many of those cars are going to be captured by that tax, which provides a real disincentive.
Right. Gill, if I can get you in at this stage, what would be the cost differential? The battery cost is almost 40% of the cost of an electric vehicle, and this is what countries, even India, try to subsidize as much for the end consumer. What could be the price increase as a result of this?
So I think particularly for those cars that do come in under £40,000, and there are almost 50 models available in the UK market that are under that price threshold, so will not be subject to the additional supplement, expensive car supplement. So that's one bit of good news. But also in 2024, we have government introducing the zero emission vehicle mandate, and that will require all car manufacturers to produce a certain percentage of pure electric cars. The effect of that will be more electric cars coming onto the market. We should start to see true price parity with petrol and diesel. So to your point there, yes, electric cars in today's market are more expensive in terms of upfront cost than petrol and diesel. But in the next few years, we should start to reach price parity with petrol and diesel cars. And also being able to look at the total cost of ownership is really, really important. We know that through the work that we've done at LV and Electrix, running costs for electric cars are 47% lower. And if you can lease an electric car, then actually you don't have to think about the upfront cost as long as you can afford those monthly payments.
Right. So, Gill, you believe that by 2025 and 2026, the impact of this latest measure will be perhaps a bare minimum? It won't really impact the adoption of electric cars?
I don't think it will have significant impact, that's right. Plus, the good news from the autumn statement in the UK yesterday is that government has committed to sustaining low rates of benefit in kind. So that's essentially low rates of company car tax. So for businesses and for employees on salary sacrifice schemes, for example, it will still make an awful lot of sense to make the switch to an electric car because of those low incentives, those low tax rates. So they serve as a really, really strong incentive. And a lot of the electric cars on the roads in the UK today are there by virtue of those low rates of benefit in kind tax for company car drivers. So that's a really good piece of news. And in the next few years, those cars will trickle down to the second-hand market as well, which is a good thing.
Emma, getting you back in, today we were discussing the impact on Jaguar Land Rover. But again, the point is this latest measure of scrapping the tax rebate and bringing back this excise duty will come into effect from April 2025. So there is still some time. How many car makers, and which are the car makers in the UK, in Europe, which could be impacted by this measure? With the data that your organization shared with us, it shows that electric cars comprise 15% of the vehicles registered in the UK this year.
No, absolutely. 15% now, and we're forecasting by the end of 2023 that will be 1 in 5. And by 2024, we're looking at probably nearly 500,000 new battery electric vehicles registered in the UK each year. It is fantastically exciting technology. We know there's huge amount of demand to get into these vehicles, and manufacturers are investing massively to drive up the range so that you can go further without charging for longer, and to make this technology really accessible for all. And what we need all stakeholders to really play their part in this revolution. The cars are there, the model choice is there, 150 now available to buy in the UK. And what we need is to pull every single lever to really make sure that these vehicles are accessible to everybody, because everybody should be able to benefit. So we do need a supportive tax framework. We'll obviously be working really closely with government on to ensure that for the future. We do need incentives wherever we can find them, and we also need investment in charging infrastructure as well, which is a really big part of the picture in terms of making this an electric reality for the UK.
Right. If I were to ask you, Emma, do you also feel that what is happening in the UK right now with the scrapping of these tax incentives on electric vehicles, this is a point that governments and vehicle makers all across the world are thinking that yes, you may have subsidies right now, but your electric story cannot continue on subsidies forever. One day you will have to scrap those subsidies. Do you think it's possible that as a result of the measures that UK has taken, countries in Europe and other parts of the world may also consider similar measures, Emma?
Well, I think every country will have their own strategy, and to get to net zero. We have a particularly ambitious roadmap in the UK. We have the ZEV mandate coming in 2024, which imposes really ambitious targets, which the industry is absolutely up for meeting. The technology is there. It's all about getting it out there and making sure that as many people as possible can access it. So it's about making it affordable. It's about making sure that it's convenient to use. So the really exciting times ahead. It is a challenging path to get there. Obviously, we're now overriding 120 years of the internal combustion engine, and we're really powering ahead to a new future. As far as what other countries are doing, we know that other countries, many of them do have more supportive incentive frameworks for these vehicles, and only time will tell as to when the time is right for them to make the decision to reduce those.
Right. Gill, if I were to get you in at this stage, if there would be certain measures which you would urge the UK government to consider, if they are now scrapping all incentives for electric vehicle buyers, what should be some of the non-tariff interventions that they can make in order to encourage adoption in the UK?
One of the key things to continuing to encourage adoption is to make sure that there is a really clear communication framework to support electric car drivers and to support those thinking about making the switch in particular to feel comfortable. It's a new technology. We hear in the media concerns about range, concerns about charging, but actually, when we look at the UK, then, if you can charge at home overnight, it is super cheap, it is super convenient to drive an electric car. Range really is no longer an issue. Most electric cars will go 200 or 250 miles plus on a single charge, and public charging infrastructure is improving all the time. So as well as bringing industry with us, as well as bringing government along with us as well, we need to make sure that the drivers themselves, that their voices are heard and that we communicate in a transparent and honest way with them and make it as easy as possible for people to make the switch and to make sure that there is enough choice in the second-hand market as well. Because I said earlier, when we really start to make them affordable for more, that's really important.
Okay, and very quickly, Emma, so would you be urging and working with the UK government to get this latest measure set aside? Would you probably demand that the tax rebate be restored and the tax rebate policy does not change?
No, we absolutely knew that these vehicles were going to be taxed at some point, and I think what we now need to do is look ahead and look at what the future tax framework is going to be. There are all sorts of issues to think about. We know that road user charging is on the agenda as well. So there is a big debate and discussion to be had, and it's really important that the whole industry and all stakeholders are involved in those consultations.
Okay, thank you very much, Emma Butcher, Gill Nowell, for joining us, telling us about the latest measure by the UK government in their autumn statement to scrap tax incentives for electric vehicle owners. But there is still some time, so let's see what kind of impact does it have on the EV industry in the UK. We're going to take a short break, but coming up, mass resignations flood Twitter after Elon Musk gives staff a deadline to stay or leave. This after he envisages a hardcore work culture for the company. A special discussion when we're back.